Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from parts unknown. How is everybody tonight? We're waiting for people to get into the chats. Thank you for coming, everybody who comes by and everybody who watches after the broadcast. I tell you, I got a video I want to play you all when we get some people in here from the Eastern Bloc concerning Mr. T. And it's very interesting. I'll play it when we get some people in. A preview of it up here. And what it says at the bottom is, "It is necessary that I should die for my people, but my spirit will rise from the grave, and the whole world will know I was right. Donald Trump." And it's in quote marks. I didn't want to play this the other day. It's about over a week old, but it's concerning. But I also have to remind you all, I'm going to play this little video. It's got some music in native language that maybe we'll have someone come in the chats and explain to us what it says. But just remember that if is the biggest word in the English language. It's only got two little letters, but if is the biggest word. Now, maybe they let that off in the beginning of the quote, if it is necessary. But they didn't. Let me see you all's coming in. And I hope I've got a good signal. Hi, B-Dog. Hi, Nikki B. Hi, Damon. Hi, Robin. How are you? Let's see. My chats are doing a little jig on the screen. Angel, how are you doing? Quilt. Debbie. Haha. Doc, how you doing? Mike, 1176. Diane. Let's see. I'm going to... Oh, hey, Tennessee. Chris, how are you doing? I'm going to play this. I know you all probably don't know too much of the Russian language, but this is what they put out. The quote you see on the bottom of the screen and the video with the music. I won't play it all. It's not very long, but I might play it all when we get somebody in who can translate for us. You know, we'll see how it goes. Let me play this. So that was rather eerie. That's not the whole thing. It goes on for another 30 seconds or so. And along with that quote, it led me to talk about some of the things I've talked about for those of you who have been with me for my earlier broadcasts. So, hi, Sandy. Hi, Angel. Oh, my goodness, jumping around. Hi, Georgia. Leisha. Roberto. Ha, ha, ha. Let's see if I missed anybody. I'll scroll up here at the... Yes, Nikki said, please hit the like button. Share and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're not subscribed, you might want to do that. So you can be down with the people. In my thumbnail, I've got no lie can save you from the truth. No lie can save you from the truth. So that's going to be, this is a national conversation. I wanted to put worldwide conversation. This has definitely captured the imagination and the thoughts of just about everybody walking the face of this earth. As I said, it's going to be the greatest show on earth. A Google account, how you doing? Kangaroo courts are unbeatable. Well, we'll see. That's a death chant for society. A secret society. Well, I wonder which one that is, huh? As if we don't know. But anyway, speaking of courts being out of control, I will play this little snippet here by Peter Navarro. You know, his trial started today. He's not one of the ones charged in Fannie 2x4's case in Georgia. This is another case. But his trial started today, and he had a little something here. Let me see. Let me put this one up. And now I have to apologize because Rumble not always, most time has that obnoxious green line that won't get out of the way. But you can still read very faintly what it says underneath there. But let me play Peter Navarro for you. He's talking about the unlawful use of lawfare. So let me play it. It's a very short clip.
And I want to remind people once again that the cost of these prosecutions are part of what I wrote yesterday in the Washington Times, and I urge you to read this, is what they call lawfare. It's the use and abuse of our legal system to punish political rivals. And one of the ways they do that is they try to put you in prison, which they're trying to do with me. But it's also to bankrupt you. Okay, again, I'm over $500,000 worth of legal bills for what's a misdemeanor that the Department of Justice itself had a policy against ever prosecuting. I mean, think about that. We're going to go up to $750,000 by the end of the trial, and the appeals are going to be over $1 million. Okay? Do I look like a rich man? This is the same suit I wore in 2017 going into the White House.
So that too had a rather ominous tone to it, wouldn't you say? And he's discussing that this destroys people's lives financially. And it reminds me on a smaller scale. Of course, he's risking his freedom. He's having to spend his entire fortune, his life savings, open himself up to quite a bit of financial jeopardy. And it reminds me of about 20 years ago or more. I had been living in a small town for many, many years. And I had discussed how these bureaucracies in the late 90s and early 2000s were starting to get coordinated in such a way that they would have like tri-county symposiums, and they started doing what they called a dashboard, where they could enhance their regulation over the people. And I had one guy that was a building inspector, and he was had retired, and they were going to open up a new position for him. I won't get into too much detail about that. But feathering their nests and keeping themselves in jobs, dreaming up new things for people to worry about, new clipboards for people to carry and walk around, sidewalk judges, you know. And I was talking with him about something, and he had a couple of people that were actually bucking him and going to court over some of the stunts he was pulling, as bureaucrats are wont to do. And he said, these people just don't get it. We're using their money. I said, what do you mean? He said, we've got unlimited resources because of their taxes. They're beating themselves to death in court and using their own money to do it. we use their tax money, and they have to use their private money to fight their own tax money. And they chuckled. And I'll tell you what, it opened my eyes up, and I started to realize that this is something that's being spread around and has been being spread around for 20-some years, where they're turning local bureaucrats into little commissars and apparatchiks, pushing it all towards the NWO. And if you don't believe me, I'll play you this tape. Now, this is RFK. His father died for this country. His uncle Jack, John F. Kennedy, died for this country. They were the biggest name in politics for decades. He won't even get to debate Joe Biden. They won't even give him Secret Service protection. They censor him on all the big, quote, big news platforms. So, okay, nothing fishy about that, is it? But anyway, let's see what he has to say.
More importantly, there's three giant corporations: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. It's really one giant corporation, but they also own 89% of the S&P 500 to buy every single family home in America. So if they stay on the current trajectory, they will own 60% of the homes in this country, single family homes, by 2030. They literally are trying to buy everything. And the head of it, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, is on the board of the World Economic Forum. And what they've said, we want this great reset, which is you will own nothing and you will be happy. Well, they're on their way to making sure that we don't own anything. So you all probably have heard of people who are about to buy a home, and somebody comes in at the last minute with a cash offer and snatches out of the market.
Right.
And it's usually an LLC with an ambiguous name. But if you trace that up, you'll find it's owned by BlackRock.
Wow.
They didn't just start doing this yesterday, folks. They didn't just start doing this yesterday. But a lot of us 20 years ago, when we saw this boiling and bubbling up, we really would have been labeled as theorists, conspiracy, okay? But we see that it's coming true. And what is coming into power, okay? I didn't tape that Donna Brazil. It just makes me sick. I called her a pink-haired pagan, okay? Well, they come with purple hair, too. I went to college, so that makes me better than you. Now pay off my loans, you uneducated racist. So, hi, DeCat. How you doing? Pappy Two Bears, how you doing? Thanks for sponsoring the show the other night. Appreciate that. Hi, Donna. Hi, Mary Freeland. How are you doing? So, if I missed anybody, I apologize. I want to keep going, go through some of these pictures. Sometimes I do a broadcast, I don't get through stuff. But we've got a coordinated. I mean, it wasn't just these little apparatchiks they're setting up in local governments. They've done in many, many small towns and counties exactly what they did in Hawaii, but they haven't had the opportunity to implement it. But the goal is just what Kennedy was saying: get you where you own nothing. Now, the be happy part, they'll work on that later, allegedly. But I tell you, that video from the East where they were saying that quote from Donald Trump, they have got quite a different take on what's happening in our country. I'll go over some of that with you all. They're on the outside looking in, don't you know? So they can. This is something else that was in my studio for a long time. A lot of you may know it, and a lot of you may not. Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd, who SHOT Ashley Babbitt promoted to captain. Promoted to captain, as I said last night, they fail upwards, okay? They get themselves some challenged people that can't function in regular society or find a job in regular society, and give them positions of power and responsibility to maintain their system. And these people will do whatever it takes to keep their job or expand it or get their nephew a job or whatever. And it just grows and grows, goes on and on. But and another thing I had in my studio was Dodi Fayed's father, Muhammad Al-Fayed. And some of you may not know, Dodi Fayed was dating Princess Di, and they both died in a car wreck, okay? His father was adamant that the royal family had something to do with it. He died at the age of 94 a couple of days ago or 3 days ago. And, I really don't get into anything conspiracy, but he's been around for a long time. He lived a long life. And he tried to speak up for his son, but he is no longer with us. And getting back to the Eastern Bloc, let me see. Let me just get this one out of the way here. I want to show you how these creepos work. If you can actually use the term work with these things. The Washington Examiner put this up. Peter Strzok can depose Trump in lawsuit over his FBI firing judge. Former President Donald Trump will need to sit for a deposition in a civil suit brought by former FBI agents fired under his presidency after a federal court of appeals rejected a bid on Friday by the Justice Department to block his testimony. That makes it seem to the mouth breathers like the purple-haired mess on the left. Trump lost again. But you all know, because you've been watching my broadcasts, that Trump was suing to be able to give a deposition. The Justice Department was fighting to prevent him from giving a deposition, and they lost. So the Washington Examiner writes this article as if Trump suffered the loss. See how they work, folks? Just wanted to get that out of the way, because you can apply that method of lies to quite a bit of things they've done over the years about Mr. T. I've got a whole list of them I was going to go over if I ever had a lefty come into the conversation, but I haven't yet. So I guess I'll save it or go over it when I'm got myself aggravated. And here we go. Let's have a little humor. Babylon Bee. They're always good for a laugh. Donald Trump's trial for election interference set to begin just in time to interfere with the election. I like that. Let me get that purple thing off there. Where is that? There we go. And another thing that I didn't get a chance to talk about, a lot of you have probably heard about this character in the past. Bill Richardson, former New Mexico governor who worked to free Americans held abroad, dies. One of his last Free Britney was one of the last things he worked on, Brittany Griner. So, but we all know that he had a history of being involved with very young people, right? And it never got disclosed to anyone. So, or to the general public, but we know about it. Now, they didn't give a cause of his passing, which I found very interesting. And I don't know what happened. But it may just be going along with all of the things that are suspicious. And last night I talked about Burning Man. I'll kind of do a quick wrap up on that. Just about everybody who wanted to get out of there, the roads dried up. I saw videos of thousands and thousands and thousands of vehicles leaving. They said they weren't going to burn that figurine you see in the background down, but they did, and it was a fireworks show that lasted 8 minutes. I didn't want to videotape it and replay it. What do I care? So people stayed behind for the big Burning Man. And for those who don't know what the story is behind Burning Man, they say the Druids, but it was also Germanic tribes, Slavic tribes. They had we're talking 1,500 years ago or whatever. They would put people that were condemned or prisoners or whatever. They would take sticks and branches and make a cage to put them in and hang them in trees. And then they'd pile a bunch of wood around the tree and burn the tree down with these people hanging there in these baskets up near the, my ride's here. Hanging in the trees. And then that evolved into where they created a figurine that they would put condemned people or whatever, people they thought were demons or whatever. And I'll be out in a minute. Anyway, and they would put them inside the figurine and burn them down. So that's where Burning Man comes from, and how they have turned that into supposedly a wonderful bonding. The way the media describes it, it's just a trashy pagan ritual. Okay, probably propagated by people who sing the climate change song, and they'll be wanting us to do this. Okay. After, of course, they roll around in the mud and feces and urine and whatever else, and have their big party. When they get back, they're going to want everybody to put what you see on the screen on our faces, okay? And so they're hypocrites and pagans, and that wraps that up. They had one death, and it was probably somebody that got a bad bag of mushrooms, or who knows and who cares. Another story I didn't get a chance to get to was who was supposed to go on trial today. Or no, the 6th, I think, the 6th. Arizona rancher George Allen Kelly's trial postponed. He is another person who has been asking for a speedy trial, as is his constitutional right. And if you want to check, I have always encouraged everybody to watch Robert Gavoya, Esquire. And he gives good little updates on his live streams. And he talks about the ins and outs of this. It doesn't sound to me like they're treating him very fairly. So anyway, hopefully he'll prevail in that situation. But another thing where you have got to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend yourself, and even if you do, this man has been in prison for months over this situation. So, yeah, lawfare is not for the common man. But anyway, here's a good example of our news reporting. I just showed you how they twisted that thing around about Peter Strzok. Because Trump said he was a traitor. Trump said he had an insurance policy and all that stuff. And he wants to get that in the court record because the media did not report on it to our friends and family members. Okay? Now they're going to find out. But anyway, SHOOTER. You all know what that spells. Described as what? Mostly white Asian male. That's Fox News. So, yeah. Just something I wanted to point out, but you all already knew that they don't treat us very fairly, do they? Now, one thing the Eastern Bloc is focusing on, not focusing on, they're on the outside looking in. They're going to see things and take note of things that most of us don't see. For instance, here's a post that they put up about 10 days ago. It says the United States increasingly seems to be sleepwalking into a crisis the likes of which it has not seen since 1850. And I'll tell you, some of these journalists from the other side of the world are more astute about American history than the average American adult. I'll tell you that. I've seen plenty of examples of it, and this is one of them. But anyway, the post says, California Dems are going to try to arrest Texas representatives for forcing them to live up to their sanctuary city state rhetoric. Also, the act of a provincial government trying to imprison officials of another provincial government is one of those things you see before a country breaks apart. And it refers to an ABC article where they are in Los Angeles considering criminal charges against Texas. And that, these kind of things bud and grow out of what these little state prosecutors are trying to do to a president of the United States. So they also notice, this graph here is very interesting. Loan borrowers expect to go delinquent when payments resume on October 1st. So we've got a lot of things that are coming to the fore. That we're not really focusing on because of what is happening elsewhere. But we do have the looming government shutdown coming, folks. And the Democrats are going to milk that for all it's worth. They're looking for anything they can find to disrupt and frighten people, to create a general sense of angst. ANGST. Look it up. A communal sense of angst. And they're going to use everything. Financial, medical, okay? On and on it'll go. Let me see what this report. Here we go. LA City Council votes to look into legal action against Texas governor over migrant busing. The motions also call to investigate whether Abbott committed crimes. Both motions passed 13-0, were filed on June 16th after buses originating from McAllen, Texas, including 42 migrants and 18 minors. So stuff is being noticed as I said, on the other side of the world, but also something we're noticing. This may have a little something. What you see on the screen there is an oligarch from Ukraine that's been arrested. This may have been one of the reasons people were pushed to indict Trump today, not don't wait till tomorrow. Because even the news, regular news, is reporting about missing money, and they're trying to protect the Bidens, but the corruption is starting to boil over. Ukrainian oligarch Igor Kolomoisky was charged under articles on fraud and legalization of property obtained by criminal means. It has been established that during 2013 through 2020, Igor Kolomoisky legalized more than 500 million hryvnias by exporting them abroad using an infrastructure of banking institutions under his control. So he's going to start singing like a bird, and that kind of money, certain individuals who stay in trouble were involved. So this reporter says, I can't predict in any detail, but my intuition is that some sort of dollar energy crisis or mishandling of military action against China is the catalyst for American collapse. I didn't get every screenshot of every article, but there had been discussions of secession by southern states and history examples of civil war and things of that nature. But anyway, followed by an increasingly aggressive parasitic federal freakout directed towards the heartland, namely folks like us, resolving in some level of balkanization, either de facto or normal, which is more violent than Czechoslovakia, but hopefully and less likely less violent than Yugoslavia. So they're comparing Eastern Europe, the travails after World War II, to what is happening in the United States. At the end of the day, everyone is poor, but the financial government seats of power are much more poor. And then they gave a picture of Biden at his inaugural, which not many of us got to see a shot from this angle. 66% of Southern Republicans in favor of seating from the U.S. poll shows. So, give his analysis and compare it to our prior history and that of Eastern Europe after World War II. So, what they say about his history repeating itself. Let's see. Wild West was talking about a hurricane's going to be hitting D.C. in 16 days. A storm's name is Lee. Okay, well, we'll see what happens there. Just checking the chats real quick, folks. But anyway, they focus also on the U.S.'s financial situation, how BRICS is expanding and actively working to get rid of the petrodollar as the main form of currency. But this report here is current unrealized losses in the U.S. banking system is negative 1.8 trillion out of only 2.2 trillion capital. With corporate taxes due September 15th and a possible government shutdown, which none of the news organizations here are talking about, but they are, due October 2nd. Banks are already insolvent, entering a nightmare liquidity scenario in October. So keep some cash on hand, folks. And the other thing, too, is fill up your gas tanks while it is relative to this administration. It is relatively cheap because gas would be $10 a gallon if that happens. I'll show you what that is in a minute. The economic pain it would cause is a kind of pain that causes nations and political systems to collapse. Oil is going to be $300 a barrel. This one person is predicting. But I will tell you that Mr. T said we were going to suffer from this draining of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve by Biden and his cutting off pipelines and making us energy dependent when Trump made us independent. So I am not discounting this. I'll get back to that in a second. Let me put up this for you. Brazil's Supreme Court rules that homophobia is now punishable by prison. Hate speech is punishable by prison terms of 2 to 5 years in Brazil. As you know, Supreme Court, he finished that up about, I guess, a week or 10 days ago. And Brazil's Supreme Court criminalized homophobia. So, you know, many of the memes and things that I put up and jokes that I make, if I were in Brazil, I'd be looking at 2 years in a joint, okay? And we're being put in a position where you have people aggressively converse with you and stake out in front of your children, plant their flags, their thoughts on how life should be, and you don't dare argue your position, your moral beliefs, or you can go to prison. That's why the First Amendment is so precious to us, and the Second Amendment protects the First. So that makes it just as precious. Well, this is Africa. Another African nation got taken over by the military. In Gabon, the military announced a cancellation of the results of national elections and the dissolutions of institutions of power. A new coup is taking shape in Africa. The military on television announced cancellation of voting results after the victory of incumbent president, whatever his name is, was reelected for a third term with over 64% of the vote. So the military didn't like what they were seeing. The army dissolved the existing institutions of power and announced on television that it would not accept the results of the national elections. Now, according to the military in the city of Libreville, there's an exchange of fire. So there is some stuff going on there. But I want to remind you all of Stacey Abrams going to Africa and going, you know, what were they doing? They were bringing certain types of not fax machines, okay? Systems, all right? Assistance with the voting infrastructure, I'll put it that way. And the military's not putting up with it. Military coups continue to roll across Africa. The military Gabon seized power and announced the dissolution of the current government. The country's borders are closed till further notice. By a happy coincidence, Gabon is also a former French colony that has reserves of uranium, oil, and gas. So you see what was going on there, folks. Yeah, the West is getting kicked out of Africa, Jerry Lee says. Hold on, I got a notice. All right, Gary, that must have been you. I will do booms and explosions for you farther in the broadcast so my chats don't get frozen on the screen. That happens after I do my special effects for some reason, so I will do that. Thank you for helping sponsor tonight's program, and I've got a link for Buy Me a Coffee in the description if anybody wants to help out. I appreciate it. And I will do my explosions as we come toward, later on in the broadcast, as we come toward the end. But as with this turmoil, I want to play Tucker Carlson addressing some people and discussing the UN and the situation in America, and his predictions for that is a short video. But you think about what we've just been discussing about the dollar, the price of oil, what's going on in Africa, and what he's going to discuss in this clip here. Yeah, we're going to keep ourselves in tune with the rhythm of the world, not just what's happening in our country, so we can deal with it intelligently and explain it to others intelligently.
Because the world is resetting completely. The post-war order is collapsing. NATO is going to collapse. In the driver of NATO, which is the United States, cheap energy in Nord Stream, the Biden administration blew up Nord Stream. And the Germans are so self-hating, they won't say anything about it. They sort of put their head down like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, but I do want to talk about it because it's important. First of all, it was the biggest act of industrial sabotage in history. Second, it was the largest man-made CO2 emission in history, which if you're a global warming cultist is like the devil himself come to earth, and the Biden administration did that. But third and most important, it was an attack on Germany, which is the most powerful country in Europe. Western Europe is America's last main ally, and we just attacked our most important ally. NATO cannot stand long term. At some point, the Germans are going to wake up and be like, wait a second, we had chemical plants 2 years ago, now we don't. You just wrecked our economy. I don't think it can continue after that. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see how.
NATO is teetering. NATO is teetering. France is a big part of NATO, and France is getting kicked out of Africa. And the U.S. is having a proxy war in against Russia in Ukraine. But here's a little something to brighten your day. How about a little bit of mom justice? You know what I mean when you see the rest of this video here. This is a kid. First of all, I think his parents should be the ones getting arrested for buying him that outfit he's wearing. But this is some kid in the UK that is being very nasty to officers. And he actually spits on one of them, and he gets a little bit of that mom justice. I don't know if that skipped on you or not, but she gave him one of them mom smacks right upside the head. I'm sure many of you remember that, a mom smack, and you only got it when you really needed it. But I don't know if it skipped past that. But anyway, I could probably get in trouble with you, Tizzle, for putting that up there. But anyway, let me just see what's going on in the chats. Yeah, I tell you, Gary, Vladimir Putin is going to be talking with Tucker. Like I said, anybody who doesn't have anything to hide is going to want to be talking to Tucker Carlson. Let me tell you, you won't get Barack Obama up there talking to him. You won't get Bill Mayer up there talking to him. You won't get anybody that's got something to hide wanting to talk to Tucker Carlson. But he is going to be having some blockbuster interviews. And it's only the beginning. I'm just looking through. Yeah, he deserved it all right. I had another wow, I have to wait till I get that in the studio. But anyway, let me get some of these other reports because a lot of it is important. Let me get that off the screen. Let's see what this one is. Here we go. This is the article, oil is going to $300 a barrel. The thing about commodities like oil is that while they can be acutely volatile because of supply and demand and political events, long-term their price is a function of the technology needed to create them and the state of inflation in the denominating economy. As baseline commodity prices go up in line with inflation, so a country with high inflation commodities become currency, and as any gold fan will tell you, dollars are priced in ounces of gold, not the other way around. Oil can be seen as a good example of this idea. Dollars are priced in barrels of oil, not the other way around. You can also say that implicit in the whole definition of a commodity is that it is something fungible with money. It is an interesting metaphor because since 2005, there has been a lot of U.S. inflation. So right now, a dollar back in 2005 is worth $1.57 in 2023. You need 57% more money to buy the same stuff in 2023 than you did in 2005. And I showed you those $1,000, $500 denominations yesterday and showed you what the current value of those would be today from 1969. A $1,000 bill would only get you $130 today. But here is a real good example of, in just a very short period of time, how the dollar has lost so much, and it's just beginning. When it gets to $300 a barrel, gas will be $10 a gallon. Oil should be $10 a barrel. But anyway, this is BRICS nations. BRICS to officially abandon the petrodollar. 80% of global oil production is moving away from U.S. dollars sanction risks. So you see right there, all of Russia, of course, which is the big green blob on the top. And for the uninitiated, Ukraine is somewhere down below that, a little pimple. And people that are saying, yeah, Ukraine is going to overthrow Putin. Take a look at the map, brain surgeons. So, this is scary right here. Again, foreign correspondents knowing more about our history than most Americans today. 1970s inflation versus 2020s inflation. You see the yellow line on the chart overlaying the blue line? The blue line is the historical, already happened history of inflation And the yellow line is the present day activity overlaid. When you compare the inflation rates from 72 to 76, it is almost identical as today. It certainly is. And what do you see that is not in gold yet? A burst of inflation is what happened in the 70s. However, 2 years later, we saw inflation spike to 11%. The peak inflation rate in the 70s aligns perfectly with the 2022 peak. Are we about to see another and bigger wave of inflation, or is this just a wild coincidence? And those of you who've been with me on my past broadcasts, I discussed that we haven't seen anything yet. In the 70s, there were gas lines. In the 70s, there were foreclosures because people were paying 18, 19, 20% on their home mortgages. Inflation was horrible. People had to wait in gas lines. People had to go on odd or even days to get gas, depending on their license plate. If it wasn't your day to go, you couldn't get gas. If you needed it, you just weren't allowed. It was rationing. So how would this current generation deal with that type of restrictions? Talk about fear and discomfort. It would be, but then again, they want everybody buying electric vehicles, right? So they would happily force us into this. The other thing they noticed is democracy for me, but not for thee. The common 24 election narrative is that it must be canceled. Voting must be canceled. And they have a bunch of stories from Western news. Could Trump's criminal cases keep him off the ballot? After indictment, could Trump get tossed off the ballot? Clinton opinion, Trump is in 2024, the Supreme Court should decide whether Trump's eligible. Why the Constitution could block Trump from running. Blah, blah, blah. On and on it goes. So that's definitely in their cards. Believe me, there's some people sitting around the table right now dreaming up whatever thing, whether it's mosquitoes that have infections in them or getting Trump off the ballot, postpone the election, have gas prices go through the roof, shut the government down, get people afraid of getting ill. Disruption, okay? We got to be mentally ready for it, and you got to be ready for it in your home and have your friends and relatives prepared for it. What do we have here? The Constitution prohibits Trump from ever being president again. I know there has been some cases where the judges have ruled that states cannot keep Trump off the ballot, but they are trying. There are court rulings that people can exercise their Second Amendment rights in certain ways, and there are states ignoring them rulings. Remember, I said what's going to happen when states outright defy the Supreme Court, and that could happen, and we would have a constitutional crisis. They call this the rotting corpse of that is American democracy. The bottom line is that Donald Trump, this was an article in the Atlantic. Donald Trump engaged in insurrection or rebellion, gave aid and comfort to others, engaging in such conduct with the original meaning of those terms as employed in Section 3 of blah, blah, blah. So the mouth breathers read this garbage from the Atlantic, and there's no basis in law. No one has been charged with insurrection, rebellion. None of the J6 people. Donald Trump has not been charged. They're acting as if a Secretary of State or a governor can wave a magic wand and decide, you're an insurrectionist, you can't run. And people are falling for that garbage. And it is being noticed in other news agencies around the world. Now, Canada, the foreign affairs minister, is prepping a game plan for if the U.S. takes a far-right authoritarian shift. You talk about a hypocrite. These are people in the Canadian government that froze people's bank accounts, imported foreign police forces, took down kids' bouncy houses, and did all the things they did to the truckers. But they're saying they're saying that they're getting ready to, in case we go to an authoritarian shift, far right. Carolina Lyon said the population of Canada during the 2021 census was about 36 million, about half the total of people that voted for Trump in the last election. And a considerable percentage of that 36 million is sympathetic to Trump. She has good reason to be afraid. Zero hedge. There you go. Live with it. It's going to happen. Trump's getting in. We just got to do it in a way that causes the least damage to our society. And hey, writing's on the wall, folks. About 49,500 people took their own lives. This is another thing that is being noticed in other countries. U.S. suicides hit an all-time high last year. The highest number ever, according to new government data posted. Last night I said, how could we calculate the harm? It's almost impossible to calculate the harm that's been done by Dr. Fauci's policies, okay? The lockdowns, the businesses being destroyed, the tensions that have been stirred up between different factions in the United States. How can you calculate the harm? Well, one way is the suicide rate. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention posted the numbers. Available data suggests suicides are more common in the U.S. than any time since the dawn of World War II. Well, which population is it hitting the most? I'll tell you. Before I read this article, I'm going to put this chart up. We have got a problem, and I've said it in relation to young people today. And that we're going to have a lot of distressed young people that we have to help that were drugged into this transgenderism, all right, who have been forced into life-altering medical procedures that in many cases are irreversible. But this is another metric that you can see by this chart. Skyrocketing, okay? Young adults. The article says Generation Z, Gen Z, is so young and they have already been burned out. You think about it, what they've been through. It's a shock for us to see this push push towards paganism, towards Satanism, the Church of Satan being accepted by the U.S. Navy, all these people being promoted into positions of power. It's a shock to us having being thrown out of stores because we wouldn't put something on our face, people getting threatened with their jobs if they didn't get something put in their shoulder. But imagine being an impressionable child walking into this, as that one lady who was crying on the video said, this dysphoric nightmare that has been created. Gen Z is so young and they have already been burned out. They are good kids who need our help. They're committing you-know-what aside at record rates, have the highest rates of emergency room admissions for self-harm and the highest levels of clinical level depression. We lose them, we lose the future. A society that does not watch out for and protect its children is a society that has lost its right to continue. This is an opinion article. They have more thrown at them than we adults care to admit. It's easy to call them soft, fragile, etc., but they are exposed to a lot of very dark, evil stuff daily. And, we've got to protect them as much as possible. As I've said many times, you can't save a fallen robin, every fallen robin. But we've got to let them know that we're out here for them and support groups that are detransitioners. I'm up to an hour. I want to get a lot more stuff in, folks. Here's a blast from the past. I wonder if this is going to come up in the future. Here's an article I dug up from somewhere. Dated November 4th, 2016. Witch's Church, Clinton insider claims. Do you realize what would happen if that got out? Yeah, not only that, I don't think it would surprise many people today, but what other things have we been kept, has been kept away from us that we should have known, that other people knew, people in power, people in the media knew? How about this one right here? Don Jr. He got asked this on his show. The show's name, I guess I won't get in trouble for saying it, called Triggered.
Is Michelle Obama a dude? Listen, I'm not allowed to talk about these things because, right, you get called a conspiracy theorist by the mainstream media. But I will say, have you ever seen a picture of her pregnant? Just kidding. That's it. I haven't, but I'm sure she's lovely.
I'm sure she's lovely. And Tucker, let me put this up for you folks. He had another interview with somebody. Let me see if I can find it. He was talking to a person who was, I'll say, friends of Barack's. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if that's it or not. Let me see. Let's see. Is this it? No, that's a young guy that's singing a rap song. I'll have to do that on another broadcast. It's a guy that, here he is, right here. He spoke to a lot of people and nobody listened to him. But he got an interview with Tucker.
who's in town for the night, and it sounds like you're looking to party.
Yes, pulled up in a bar outside, and there's this guy that's introduced to me as Barack Obama. I had given Barack $250 to pay for coke. I start putting a line on a CD tray to snort, and next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going, and it went the direction I had intended it to go.
Even though you had sex with him twice, you did cocaine with him, watched him smoke crack twice, you had no idea who he was.
I had no idea who he was.
Let me just ask the obvious question. What was Obama like on crack? Is it your sense that that's who Obama is, just transactional, or that he's bisexual, or like what is this?
It definitely wasn't Barack's first time, and I would almost be willing to bet you it wasn't as long.
The guy's running for president, and credible information comes out that he's smoking crack and having sex with dudes. That seems like a story.
Well, it would be a story if the media really cared about telling people the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, but they don't care about telling people the truth now, do they? So I want to thank Gary for stopping by me a coffee. I'm going to do some booms for him helping to sponsor tonight's show. I will. Let's see. I want to put up a picture of somebody I don't like. If I do any bombs or anything like that. Here, listen to Jordan Peterson. He's got something quick to say that should have been said a long time ago, and we should have known about Barack and Michelle, but they never told us.
My paramount feature is who I'm sexually attracted to. Really, that's your paramount feature, is it? That's your definition of your intrinsic self. To call you primitive.
Here, I'll put her picture up. That way I can go ahead and let some booms off. I don't want to hit Mr. T or George Washington. I'll do my best. But I appreciate it, Gary, for you helping out with buying me a coffee. Let me see. I've got here. Whoa, no, that's kind of low. Boom. Pow. And let's do it again. Bang. Here we go. Boom. Anyway, I appreciate y'all helping me out with Buy Me Coffee. Got a link in the description if anybody wants to help out with the channel. I'll set off my own fireworks. And anyway, oops, that's a good one. There we go. I appreciate it, Gary. And let me see if my chats get frozen on screen or not. Anyway, what evil last word did you say? Wow, Wes. So anyway, I've gone over my hour, folks. Thanks for helping out with the program, Gary. And I will be broadcast. Let's see, tomorrow's Wednesday. I'll probably come up Thursday unless I get a wild hair tomorrow. And I'm going to play that video of Mr. T, where they were talking about him saying he was going to give his life for his country. I'll keep that in my studio in case somebody can translate that for us in the future. But I'm going to close out with this young man, what he's got to say about Mr. T and what all young people are really talking about. It's got text in there so you can read it in case you can't hear it very good. But he's saying Mr. T's the only choice. Okay? And it's a good video to close out on. I appreciate you all spending your precious time with me. I'll be seeing you soon. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. And I'll be seeing you all soon. This is Mountain Man, over and out.
Binary. You have Biden or you have Trump. That's it. The media will tell you that other people have a chance. No one has a chance. It's Biden or it's Trump. Biden is the establishment. He's been in Congress. He's been in that swamp for 50, 60, 70 years. He is a part of King Obama. He's a part of the Clintons. He's a part of the Bushes. He's a part of all these people that lied about all the wars, that spend all your money, that do one thing and tell you to do another thing. This is the group of people that are in charge. You either vote for that or the only person that's the outlier and different. That's it. And that sucks because some people say, I don't like Trump. Great, you don't like Trump.
What's your other option?
There's no other option.
Yeah.
It's either you comply and you plug in and you eat bugs for the rest of your fucking life, or you pick one guy that will at least try.